Rise up, Democrats. Rise up, Americans. This cannot stand. We will occupy this floor. We will no longer be denied a right to vote.
And that was Congressman John Larson and dozens of other members of Congress, as you saw, staging a sit-in on the House floor over gun control. Very unusual to see that. The team of Democrats is being led by Georgia Congressman John Lewis. Just last week, Dems launched that 15-hour filibuster on the Senate floor. And joining us for much more on this very hot-button issue of gun control is Republican Congressman Scott Perry of Pennsylvania. And we will be taking your calls as a reminder, so you can join the conversation. The number to call is 1-877-NEWSMAX. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us here on Newsmax Prime.
Great to be with you this evening.
Congressman, what do you, as a Republican who supports the Second Amendment, make of what you're seeing happening right now in the House?
Well, it's somewhat obstructionist, right? I mean, it's kind of the my way or the highway. They want whatever bill that they want, and that's what they want, and they want to force us to come to some conclusion on that bill. The really troubling thing is that I don't care if you're liberal, if you're conservative, Democrat, Republican, old, young, man, woman, whatever. Nobody wants terrorists to have guns. Nobody wants that. But
right.
The bill that they're talking about doesn't change what happened in Orlando. And if we're truly trying to find a solution, then let's get to a solution. But what they're talking about doesn't solve what happened in Orlando. So is this unfortunately more about politics, or is this about, what is this about? To me, it's not about finding a solution, which is where we should be focusing our attention.
Yeah, Congressman David Jolly was on this program last night discussing a compromise to the no-fly, no-bill buy. Here's what he had to say.
If an American citizen goes to purchase a firearm and is turned down by their government because they are on a watch list they don't know about, I think that American citizen needs to know about it. Have a due process hearing, and under my bill, the government has the burden of proof.
Kind of sounds similar to Cornyn's bill. Is Congressman Jolly's bill a good alternative, in your opinion, to, let's say, Susan Collins' bill, which she talked about the other day?
Well, listen, that's what I think we need, is some alternatives and then a discussion about them, which is what we haven't had. It's these lists, and it's particularly the no-fly list. If it just has your name on it, whether it's Scott Perry from Idaho or Scott Perry from Pennsylvania, if that name is on the list, Scott Perry's not flying, and there is no due process. So let's work out what that means, and let's find a way to have due process to make sure that terrorists can't have guns, but we're not infringing upon people's rights. And I think that there was a reasonable alternative offered in the Senate, and of course the Democrats didn't vote for that. They wouldn't vote for that, but yet they want to force a vote on what they want here. So this is about finding the common ground and kind of balancing between our Second Amendment rights and the horrific things that have happened in our country, including Orlando. The bill in particular that they're talking about wouldn't have prevented Orlando. So what is this really about? Is this just about disarming America, when we should be really trying to look to protect ourselves in the face of unprecedented violence perpetrated by a particular ideology and a group of people? So this is why that's what Congress was meant for, was a time and a place to deliberate these issues. And if we're not going to be allowed to deliberate and just be forced to vote on something, that's how bad policy happens.
Yeah, Congressman, you're talking about, the Democrats playing party politics. The Senate, as you mentioned, has already voted down, 4 gun measures, 2 that were introduced by Republicans, 2 that were introduced by Democrats. Now, the Democrats continue to point to Republicans as the reason, but doesn't that seem a little unfair?
Well, it seems unfair to me. As a matter of fact, as usual, Republicans are accused of politicizing this event. And I will remind everybody that the president and the administration went out while these poor dead people were still in this institution where it happened, and their families were still not sure about who might have been killed. And the administration went out and immediately said it was about guns. And yet we're criticized for politicizing the issue, for answering, for responding to that politicization. So it seems to me that the cart's before the horse here once again, and this is all about an agenda, not really about finding a solution to these horrific events.
Some people have also pointed to political correctness. When you look at the Orlando case with the shooter, where he was investigated by the FBI not once, not twice, but I believe 3 times. And then we also have the case that happened in San Bernardino with the shooter's neighbor saying that he was afraid of being accused of racial profiling. To what extent, in your mind, is political correctness impacting our national security?
Well, I think to a certain extent it's impacting the lives that were lost in San Bernardino, and potentially, once we have the full investigation and the full results, potentially the 49 lives and the injuries that occurred in Orlando. If the FBI talked to this individual and we're making the connections, but political correctness came into play where they said we're called off by the Justice Department or somebody else that changed their protocol that said that this guy should walk free and then should go out and buy this weapon and then use it against them, then that is the cost. That's the problem here is that we've got to be able to have an honest conversation. Maybe it's partly about guns, but it certainly is partly about an ideology when the man is shouting Allahu Akbar while he's killing people. That can't be discounted, yet we're not allowed to discuss that. It can only be about guns. As long as we're only going to discuss potentially one portion of the problem, we're never going to come to the real solution in my mind.
Congressman, what do you think that solution is, and who do you think is best qualified to lead this country, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton? 30 seconds remaining.
Yeah. I might have some difference with Donald Trump. None of us agree on every single thing, but I certainly know that Hillary Clinton is going to take the country in the direction where it's already been headed, and where most Americans agree is the wrong direction, right? I think 70% of Americans agree that it's the wrong direction. That's the direction Hillary Clinton's going to go in. You might have some differences with Donald Trump, but certainly he's not going to take it in the direction that Hillary Clinton's going to go in. And I would say that he's got some interesting and thought-provoking ideas about how to deal with this issue.
Congressman, we're running out of time, but we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for sticking around.
Thanks for the opportunity.